Now for our ETF Spotlight, Bob Pisani is on the floor taking a look at fund flows and what they might mean for where the market goes from here. Bob.
Yes, and you know, Mike, looking at weekly fund flows, ETFs and mutual fund is a little bit tricky because there's a lot of internal things that can basically trip you up. But there are some interesting trends that I think are developing. Let me just show you what's happened this week, for example. Now, this is for ending Wednesday here. We are seeing a continuing trend. Generally, inflows into ETFs and outflows from mutual funds. This has been going on really all year, in fact, really several years now. But just for this week, ETFs that are stock funds have seen inflows of $5 billion. Mutual fund stock funds have seen outflows. Now, what's interesting is that's a pretty modest outflow, 0.2 billion. We've seen notable outflows for 6 weeks from mutual funds, as generally retail investors have been very concerned about the market volatility. It's really the same with the bond market. Modest inflows to ETFs that are bond-related, 1.8 billion, and outflows from mutual fund bonds. Again, this is going on all year. They are going into ETFs because of the lower cost and the popularity of passive investment. And again, this is a trend that's been going on for a long time. For the year, let me just show you something. I think the important thing about the flows for ETFs is the money is still coming in. There are inflows. They're just smaller than they were. So last year we had a really record year, essentially $40 billion a month. Almost $500 billion of new money came into ETFs last year. Remember, it's a $3.5 trillion industry. Total inflows this year so far, about $305 billion. That might change a little bit, maybe $325 at the end of the year. But the point here is we're still inflows, but 40% smaller than it was at the end of last year. This suggests to me that money is coming out of mutual funds. A lot of it is going into the ETF business, but not necessarily all of it. As for inflows, if you want to try to guess sentiment here, QQQ. Now, we've seen outflows from this ETF for many weeks now, but this week we actually saw some inflows. So at least a small group of people here, guys, Carl, are trying to figure out some kind of bottom. The flows are still pretty modest, but I was quite amazed that QQQ and the SPDR, SPY, which is the biggest ETF, both had notable inflows this week.